In this episode, I had the privilege of speaking with Peter Panagore, a man whose life was forever changed by a near-death experience that happened during an ice climbing expedition just south of Alberta, Canada. Over 4 decades have passed, and Peter has since dedicated his life to sharing the wisdom he's brought back from his experience. Peter is a true embodiment of resilience and compassion, and this is one of the most detailed descriptions of the divine I've ever heard. Right before the recording started, I shared my own mystical experience with Peter, so if you haven't seen it already, I highly recommend watching my very first video titled My Encounter with God, because Peter does refer back to my experience several times throughout the episode. And here's Peter with his remarkable account of survival and enlightenment. Enjoy the conversation. Were you already spiritually minded before your NDE?
I was. I took going back to when I was 5, I had my first out-of-body rapture into the divine being by an angelic orb that showed me myself and my mission, to put this very briefly. And then when I was 6, Ganesh came to me, but I was a Catholic kid out of Boston going to the Greek church, and I knew nothing of Hinduism. And it showed me itself. So I had 2 very young experiences, and then I took a triplet of LSD when I was in high school and had an end of duality experience. And then along the Appalachian Trail, the year before I died, I had 2 more rapture into the divine presence vision, that all these things set me up, none of which I fully understood, but they all set me up for understanding after I died. I didn't come to understand any of them really till after I died. They left me with gifts, because these kinds of things, they always leave a gift, and you're experiencing that gift just when you got raptured into it, when you were saying thank you. I watched it happen. You were the same person where you were saying thank you to the divine being, the all that is all, and it leaves this after gifts. It leaves after gifts. And they're plumbable. You can plumb them. You can work them. You can be in them. And so as a boy, I didn't know how to meditate or any of that kind of stuff till I get to high school. But once it leaves a mark on you, it's never let me go. I don't know about anybody else. It's never let me go.
I feel the same way. I feel so blessed to have had this experience and to be able to draw upon it. You know, when life gets challenging, I just go right to that experience. I'm like, and just take the breath.
The breath. It's really about the breath. So how do you do that? Have you talked to your audience about how you do that? Your listeners? How do you do your breath? How do you bring yourself back?
Honestly, I just sit. I will close my eyes. I'll go back to the experience. I will remember seeing the light. I will feel it enter every cell of my body and fill me up. And I go right back to that place and remember, I am more than my body. I am more than this experience. And there, I'm in alignment.
Yeah.
And the world is there and the challenge is still there, but it allows me to move through it with more ease and comfort and grace.
Mm-hmm. Exactly so. And that reverberates around you to everybody you meet. Everybody you interact with as you drop into this space catches that vibe, whether they know or whether they don't. So if you are a reactive person and you're out in the world facing with reaction and tension and fighting, everybody fights against you. But when you're in a place where you can drop inside this peace inside yourself, the people respond to you differently. Even if they're angry, they can't help but respond to you differently. So you become a pebble every time you go outside and you drop inside your breath. It's been my experience. That's why I say it is because you said that you came back being nudged to be a messenger, to speak about the unspeakable, to try to, you've given great metaphors, but mostly you emote your experience, and it's really about the emoting of the divine itself, in the communication of it. But you've become part of a larger, global-sized. I'm hesitant to use the word army because it's a subculture of realized people who have had a realization, and part of the realization is that you can then nurture this realization and continue to step aside and be humble and full surrender to this realization. And the more that happens, the greater the glow is inside ourselves. But there are millions of us all over the globe. We're ordinary people in ordinary lives who have these extraordinary experiences, who at least for me, again, I have a compulsion to speak about it. I am to the detriment of much of other, to the detriment of my financial life. Let's put it that way. To the detriment of my financial life, since the day that this happened, this has been a compulsion with me to try to be a loudspeaker. One loudspeaker among a million, or maybe someday a billion of us. Talking, being.
I want to ask you questions about that, but I would also first, for my listeners, would love for you to share your experience, if you don't mind sharing.
I don't, David. So I was a mystically minded person from childhood, which somewhat set me apart from other people. Not to a great extent, but somewhat enough. And by the time I was in college, I'd had several experiences of mystical experiences where I had a spiritual transformation, where I'd either been raptured out of myself into the presence of the divine being and the void, and given some kind of lesson and sent back home again. So I was in a predisposition. Maybe I was born that way. I don't know. It started pretty young. I kept it a secret my whole life. I learned my lesson young to shut my mouth about it. And so when I was a college student, my sister had run away when I was 14, and this is part of the whole deal. And it had a super negative effect on my family. Like imagine the worst thing that could happen, and that's what happened. And her leaving shattered my beloved mom, who was so in a dark place that I left. I couldn't be in the family presence anymore. And so I went on exchange. I was a college student at UMass Amherst in the English department, which was a crazy thing for my family because I was going to be an architect. And but they're like, "What are you studying English for?" I said, "Well, maybe I'll write about it too." But I went to Montana State University, and when I got there in Bozeman, I decided not to go home for Christmas break. For spring break, because I'd been home for Christmas break and it went badly. And I decided to go on an adventure. And so I went to the outdoor club, and I found a guy who was going to go on a 10-day snow caving and ice climbing trip in Alberta and British Columbia. And I had a background in Boy Scoutery, and I was an outdoor adventure and camping and backpacking and skiing. And so winter's my sport, my lifetime. I'm out there all the time. Still play hockey, all that stuff. But at this point in my life, I was staying away from my family. And so Tim and I found that we had complementary outdoor skills. I was on the National Ski Patrol. I was up on wilderness first aid and all that kind of stuff. And I'd had a lot of experience. And he had just completed his certification in ice climbing. And I know this is a long lead up, but I had to give some background here because it's what we did sounds crazy to a lot of people. And I tried to assure people that I was, although I was my first time ice climbing, I had been snow caving before as a Boy Scout, and I'd cross country skied into the wilderness. I'd snowshoed in New England, but you know, and I'd spent a lot of time backpacking. So I made a mistake. All of this is to like kind of excuse me for the thing that I did. And the thing I did is I couldn't I couldn't come up with all the right gear. And I know better, okay? Be prepared and all that stuff. So the last piece of equipment, and I'm probably blushing. The last piece of equipment that I needed, I couldn't get, and so I had to make this ice climb with an axe and a hammer. And you can climb with a hammer, but you normally have two axes, and with the axe you can strap it on your wrist and let go of this thing, and you can dangle on it. And it's very safe. It's safer than like football. Ice climbing is much safer if you do it right, and I didn't. And I had a hammer, which was much shorter, and I climbed with a hammer in one hand and an axe in the other, 500 or 600 feet up on this climb called Lower Weeping Wall. And there's a bunch of other climbers on the mountain that day, and I'd been a backpacker. And pardon me, a rock climber. So ropes and rocks and steeps and dangerous situations. I kept my cool, and Tim kept his cool. He was my climbing partner and my outdoor partner. Anyway, long story short, we get to the top of the cliff that night as the sun set and the temperature dropped about 30 degrees, and the other teams left because they had come off the mountain. My climb was slowed because of this hammer swing, and I couldn't relax on it, and so I slowed us down significantly. We knew we were in grave danger hours before we reached the landing spot. And I need to say this. People wonder why I just didn't turn around and go down. Why, you're in trouble, why don't you just go down?
Right.
You can't do that. You cannot do that in ice climbing. It is not like a rule, like they look it up in the rule book. It's like physically super dangerous to do that. It's much safer and smarter to continue the ascent and then descend on the designated spots where you have control over your gear. And so we continued to ascend up this ice climb, and we landed on the top, and the temperature dropped about 30 degrees as the sun went down, and the last team left looking up at us like, what are you guys doing? Like, we're stuck. I believe, finally, on reflection, that those guys must have gone to tell the warden, because eventually the warden showed up in the middle of the night. We had signed into the wilderness log, as you do in the wilderness places, but they must have told him. They must have told him. So hours and hours and hours go by, and in this time period, I should slow the story down a little bit and say, by the time we reached the top of the climb, we knew that we were going to die. And I say that pretty lightly now. I've been through traumatic recovery and those sorts of things, but I was scared out of my mind. I was frightened in an intensity that I can't tell you. I can't explain how frightened we were, because we knew we were going to die, because we're 600 feet up, 500 or 600 feet up. And the temperature is so cold that immediately we begin to shiver with these pulsating muscles in our body, clattering jaw and difficulty speaking, and hauling up the rope and gets a big tangle of knot. And this big tangle of knot I got to untie, and I got to take my mittens off, and it's colder and colder and colder. And we can see by starlight. There's no moon up, but we see enough. There's black and white, and we have this conversation. We stay here, which is the rule in wilderness. When you're lost in the woods, you stay where you are. That's like the fundamental thing. You don't keep moving. You stay put, because that's how rescuers are going to find you. Unless your situation is dangerous, like it happened last week in South America. Those kids, they moved off the site because that meant survival for them. Generally speaking, you stay where you are. But we couldn't, because we were going to die if we stayed where we were. We knew that we would freeze to death, and the only way we were going to stay warm is by moving. And then we might have a chance for survival. It depended on the depth of the cold, the amount of energy we had. There were all these factors, and the darkness of the night, and the treacherousness of the descent, and the fear, and the control of the fear, this energy that both of us dove on top of our fear, and we just sat there with a strength that that eventually became not even my own. So to get to this point in the night, we have all these things happen to us. I'm going to cut this part of the story short. We had all these things happen to us. The warden came and saw us up there, and he gave us heart, but we still had to fight our way off. And then he left, and then we'll get to that place where he left. But in the meanwhile, in between this space, I entered into this state of being where my brain dove inside itself by itself and found this source of survivalism. It's this animalistic deep place inside myself that I had before then never seen, didn't know, never knew. There was this, call it mammalian, that it way down deep in my hominid stream back, 300,000 years ago, a million years ago. This thing was this drive for my survival that didn't need my thinking for it. I didn't have to think about keeping my fear at bay anymore. It was kept at bay by this thing that was deeper inside of me, which allowed me to have this freedom of mind to pay attention to everything that was going on around me. I didn't have to use up this energy. There was like this engine that I didn't even know I had inside me, that all I had to do was pull the cord and it just started running. And so I got this thing now. I've got this extra capacity, which was the only thing I had for my survivability, because the hypothermia had advanced, the frostbite, I still have all my digits, but I took off my gloves before we came on air because I wear half gloves all the time, and I got electric blankets, and I get problems, but that's okay. I'm not complaining. I have all my digits, but the frostbite continued to advance, and hypothermia continued to advance. The warden followed us. Well, sat in the parking lot, because I should set the scene here. This is north of Banff, south of Jasper in Alberta, and it's on the Icefields Parkway. And this Icefields Parkway is one of the most beautiful places I've ever been in my life. There are majestic mountains that make the Rockies look like the Appalachians, rounded and smooth, but these are monstrously high with these sheer walls, and they're right next to the parkway. So the climb was right next to the parkway. And so across the street in the parking lot sat the warden, who came looking for us, and we realized it was him. 2 cars all night came, and he was one of them. And we waved our arms, and he is like, "Yes, I see you," flashes the light, and we were like, "Oh yeah, all right." And we continue to drive, and that's when the animal thing dropped in during this period where I found this extra part of my brain. So he's still down there. We get to this descent, and this descent.
So you couldn't get his attention to come save you guys?
He couldn't save us.
He saw. He couldn't. So
no, he was never going to be able. How is he going to climb up after us? There was no way. Not possible.
I don't know. Not him, but I was like, maybe, I don't know.
Well, as long
I don't
as,
know how this works.
It's okay. No. I see what you're saying. I get your. I was like, he can't climb up there. No. I know what he was doing. As long as we were in motion, we were alive. And we were descending. It's a good question, David. I'm sorry I jumped in like that. I'm like, well, I'm like defending this guy. When you have a really good question, as long as we were in motion, we were safe. And so when we stopped being in motion, which is what happens next, he flashes his lights and leaves, because we end up in this ledge that we come down this descent. And it's in kind of off the ice and around a corner in the craggy, shadowy thing. The moon had come up. And we're standing on this ledge. It's like the size of half a boardroom table. Imagine some big boardroom table. It's like half of that. And in front of us are iron pins epoxied on the mountain with rings. And we're clicked in with straps hooked to our harnesses. So now we're safe. We're not going to fall. And we're one rappel up. And hours and hours and hours and hours have passed. We have a backstory with this warden too. We spent the night in his cabin. We cooked him. I talked him into letting us sleep, which he never allows. Letting us sleep in his cabin on the floor, because we got there late. And we cooked him dinner. We cleaned up, and he let us sleep in the cabin. So we got to know this guy a little bit. He's not a stranger to us. We slept on his floor.
Wow.
And so we regaled each other with tales. We're sitting around the campfire in the cabin fire in the fireplace, and he told us stories, and we told him a few stories, and we all went to bed. And so he comes, and he's sitting there in the parking lot, and we get to this ledge. Now we're one rappel up, and our car is next to his truck in the parking lot. We're the only car there, and in the car is our tent and our gear, and he knows what our gear is because we told him. And he also knows that Tim was trained. So he knows that Tim has his level of certification because we told him. So as soon as we're locked in there, he thinks we're safe and one rappel to the bottom. He flashes his lights and off he goes. And we're like, "Hey man, thanks for being there for us. We love you." And I take off my gloves and I'm still holding the rope. So I click in. He leaves. I'm holding the rope. We wave. We're like, hey man, thank you. I drop my gloves on the ledge and I take, and very difficultly. This is my muscles were frozen. I'm not like right now. I'm like Mr. Flexibility here, but we couldn't even speak well. Our lips are frozen. Our eyeballs are freezing. Our tongues are freezing. Everything is our brains are
Oh,
confused. My feet had gone from the fire, the feeling of fire cold. Cold is like this burning fire. And my feet had, like, they weren't cold anymore. And that's a bad thing. And so I was like we were in a very bad state. So I drop my gloves and I tie this knot and very slowly, and I take the other end, and the warden is gone, and I toss the line out around this corner. So there's a corner, and I'm like little guy here, and I toss the rope out around it, and I pull, and the first pull it jammed, just and the more I pulled it, the tighter the jam got. And because it was around the corner, the line was laying on the edge of the granite. And you know when you flick a line, you can kind of lift it up and get it loose from whatever it is. Whatever that
yeah.
waveform was that I flicked, it would stop at the edge of
Mm.
of where the line was laying. So I could never get the line loose above. And we couldn't reascend because we didn't have a rope. And plus I'm wearing crampons, plus I got hypothermia, plus I'm exhausted, plus I haven't had any food or water for 12 or 15 hours. And I was incapable. So we talked about this new situation. Now we're alone. Our situation suddenly changed. And I kept pulling on the rope and I couldn't get it free. And we both came to understand that we weren't getting out of this. This is it. We're going to die here. And as I had this revelation, I should say I got really cold, pardon me, and then I got really hot. I got really hot. I got so hot I unzipped my coat. And I know better because I'm on a ski patrol. I'm pulling people off the mountain for these kind of crazy things. And I didn't care. Tim scolded me, but I didn't care. And this peace settled over me. I'm going to die here. And there's nothing I could do about it. And I lost all of my fear. And this animal part of me kind of shut off. And now I just recognize this other part of me shows up. It's acceptance of the inevitability of my death. And I'm 21 years old. I just had my birthday a month before. I was 21 years old, and I was escaping my family, and I was about to become international news. Two young guys, Montana State.
Right.
And at least I would have been in the Boston Globe, And I was thinking about my mom and my dad and how my sister had vanished. And I said to myself, they're going to lose another kid, and it's going to be the end of them. There's total destruction now, nuclear thing. And I started thinking about God, but I wasn't thinking about Jesus. I was thinking about kind of the bigger divine that I had encountered as a child. I had seen into infinity. I had been washed in wisdom. I'd seen my own self. I was unafraid to die. But I didn't understand the process. And I began to fall asleep. The curtain would drop and blackout time, and I would smack down on the rock with my helmeted head and get back up again and pull on the rope. And it could have happened 3 times or 1 time or 6 times. I don't know. And so I stood up this one time. And maybe it's the second or third time I stand back up, and as I stand up, I get this tunnel vision like a spotlight on a stage, and it's closing in on me. I'm looking around like, what is this thing? What is this? And as it fades to black, I think to myself, I must be falling asleep again, because I knew I was falling asleep. I wasn't conscious when I was asleep, but when I was awake, I was. I was like, oh, I had just fallen asleep. I must be falling asleep again, but this is weird. And as it went to black, I remember my last thought was, I must be falling asleep. And I didn't. It went to black, and I was not asleep, and I had no more pain at all. And I didn't know where I was. I knew the mountain was supposed to be in front of me, but it wasn't in front of me, and I didn't know exactly what was going on. But there was the void again. And so there's this infinite darkness that I've been in before, and there's this infinite darkness, and it's a darkness that has depth to it. But now I'm in a kind of in the in between spaces. So between, I'm in an in between void, and far in this far distance, a single star appeared, and this star was to the beginning of our universe in light years away from me. And it's 13 billion light years away from me, and it races toward me. And as it races toward me, its speed is faster than the speed of light. It's filling my entire horizon, and it's talking to me, and it's speaking inside of me, saying, "It's time. I've come to take you. You're coming with me." And I'm like, I don't know what's going on here, but I'm not going anywhere. And I put up my willpower to shield myself, and it just plucked me. And now I was enfolded inside of it, and it's gigantic. I am inside of this entity, this intellect. It's intelligent, way far beyond anything I could imagine, and it's superpositioned. I can tell that it is a reduction of a purity, and that is beyond my comprehension, because I can see part of that as well as I see into this entity. Call it an angel if you want to. It was pumping me full of comfort and welcome and love. And as I was enfolded in this entity, I'm traveling back up this distance, and I'm inside of it, and I can see my own body. I can see my own body from the inside. I am shaped as a human being, but I'm not made of matter. Call it light energy if you want to, but everything I say is a metaphor. None of them are accurate. When I talk about frequency, it's not in the electromagnetic frequency table. It's somewhere beyond that. And I was made of this substance that was familiar to me because I'd seen myself like this before when I was in my previous visions, call them. And I could see through this entity that was filling me full of understanding and knowledge and power and might. And I was superpositioned. I had 2 points of view. I had a secondary point of view outside of this gigantic orb with me in the middle. I was out here somewhere, and I was an eye traveling in parallel to the orb that was carrying myself. And when I looked through the orb, because it was transparent, I when it had substance too, it's this strange kind of combination, and I could not see my eye, but I could see me looking at my own eye. I was somehow, I had no location, and yet I had a point of view. And
Wow.
I'm watching myself ascend, and I'm watching myself inside this orb being fed this knowledge and understanding. And I was at ease. I was content. And it unfolded, or I popped out of. There are parts of my NDE that I'm still trying to see, to understand, and see in language. I was out of the smallness of the orb, and I was in this greater void. And this greater void is this place I'd been before, but now I'd been shown it several different times in different ways, and only now in this I am ginormous. I am not my light body anymore. There's no physicality shaped to me whatsoever. I am a consciousness orb of being, and I'm inside of this infinite darkness which had this illumination to it as well. So there's this paradoxical thing that happens where our rational mind says, well, it's either light or it's dark. But that is those rules don't apply, and so it has this darkness, this dark expanse to it that I can see in every direction simultaneously, like I'm 10,000-eyed. And way far in the far distance, there is an end to what I can see, and it's further than this 13 billion light years. It's much further, and it becomes this deeper darkness that I cannot penetrate into. And I know that I'm looking, because it tells me I'm looking at the edge of infinity. Beyond this point, you cannot see till you fully become me. And so I had this unlimited form, but it was still a limitation compared to infinity. And so I'm in this entity, and I know myself. My thinking and my seeing and my understanding, it's all one thing. It's not like I got a brain and a nerve ending, and I'm breathing in space and time. It's not like that at all. And I'm thinking thoughts. It's all one thing. I am one thing. My thinking is my being, is my seeing, is my knowing, is my self-understanding. And I recognize myself for who I am, who I've always been, and that I hadn't ever been any of these other forms that I'd ever taken. I'd always been this. And in this understanding, I heard my name being called. And my name is not the Peter or Peter. It is the essence of the soul of myself. It's it was speaking me into this entire infinite space I was inside of, beyond which there was this infinity I couldn't see, was all speaking me into being in this moment, not just as a form that I had been as Peter, but as my soul form. I'm being brought into being now. But it also showed me that I'd always been. It was not one or the other, that my name was being called into being for eons and eons and eons and eons. And as this is happening to me, I see this opening in the darkness, and this darkness kind of opens itself, and there's this waterfall, Niagara Falls of white light, and this white light has two abilities. It is white pure light, and it is 10 million colors of light, frequencies of light. It's all of these. It's every star that I could see that night, and all this panoply of colors in the night sky with no moon, so far north, no light pollution. It was all of those, and X-rays and infrared rays and microwaves and ultraviolet rays and 10 billion other kinds of light, and all of them were this one light. It was the one light and all these fragments or reductions at the same time, but they were all the same. And it had this surface layer to it, and it had that I could see this on, and then it had this depth that I could see it in, and then it had this transparency that I could see into the infinity. I could see to the edge. I could see to the edge of infinity, not into it, not the thing itself. I could see that there was like a tunnel leading into it. And it was the most seductive thing I'd ever seen in my life. Beauty beyond compare. And I know you've seen it. You've seen the light itself. And it has this power of attraction that is beneficent and magnified and glorious and desirous, and it came toward me, and it's much bigger than me. And as it comes toward me, I want it. And so I touch it with my being. And as I touch it with my being, I'm being called by it as well. As I touch it, I open, and it pours into me. It pours into me, and it envelops me all around me. It brings me into itself, and it is now inside of me. And all of these things happened at once. There's this timeless aspect to it that, again, I can't explain. And I tell it in a chronology. And if you've heard me tell the story before, people, sometimes I move parts around in the story because I don't know what happened first. It's all at the same time.
Right.
And so I'm inside of this angelic being. The divine itself. And it is infilled inside of me. And it shows me all these things. It shows me my human self. It's like I now have Peter is with this experience. And the Peter that's with this experience, I am being shown all of the suffering and pain that I'd caused everyone in my entire life from inside of them, because they're there too. Even if they're alive, they're there too. And I'm inside of their bodies, and I'm experiencing whatever chemical and emotional and psychological thing that's happening inside of them, as I'm definitely trying to hurt them with intention. And it's the pain that I'm trying to give them. I was just a kid. What was I doing? Stealing a kid's car or something? Whatever. And, or getting in a fight or whatever it was. And I saw the measure of that was 10,000 times greater than the simultaneous decisions that I was making as a human being when I did this thing, and my emotions. I was magnifying suffering in the world to a degree I had no idea. And then I understood that all the pain that I had projected into the world was mine, because I was feeling their pain, every single one of them. I felt all of the pain that I gave away, and I felt all of my reasons. I understood all my reasons for giving the pain, I had was great suffering. I was in this. You mentioned a purgative thing with ayahuasca. It was a purgative experience for me. This divine fire of love was burning me on the inside, and that's a metaphor. And I could see not only my own self and the pain that I had caused. I could see the divine light of purity, this unlimitedness of infinite beneficence, of infinite goodness. And I, as a human being, was incomparably nothing. I was nothing. I was weak and broken, and as I understood my own self as a broken human being in comparison, it showed me all of humanity, and it showed me the universe. It showed me the brokenness of every single person. That in order to exist as a human being, I have to have limitation. And the limitation that I have as a human being includes the giving of suffering to others. And that it's not just me, it's everybody. And everybody has this radical equality. We're all within these certain parameters. We can only cause within these parameters this much pain. But infinite love is incomparable. It is so much greater than us that we are loved and forgiven no matter what we do in the end. Because we didn't write the code. I was shown love. I didn't design the universe. We have black holes consuming star systems. We have asteroids hitting planets. It's a big picture out there, and there are microbes. There are viruses that kill people. There are wolves that eat sheep. Nature is violent, and it's a necessary. It's necessary for it to exist. I'm not condoning violence. I'm saying that it eats itself, and that's how it's alive. And I didn't write the code for that. I was responsible for the choices that I made for bringing harm into the world, because I could have chosen otherwise. But I didn't design the whole picture. And the whole picture was so infinitely pure and good that I saw that I'm no better than anyone else, and I'm no worse than the worst of us. Because I don't measure, this is an after effect of this. I don't measure myself against the other here, because I've been measured against the other there. And I see myself as infinitely loved, but also human. And so I understood this forgiveness that came. And this forgiveness came because not only did I bring all the pain that I gave away in my life, I brought all the love that people gave me. These same people that I hurt, my sisters, my brother, my mother, my father, everybody. Those are the people I hurt, mostly because, your family. And I brought all their love with me. And all the love that I gave away, I brought with me. And it became sort of like this lens through which I could hear this other thing that was happening. My name was still being called. When I was in this purgative state, it was as if the fiery eye of the divine could see every aspect of my human hidden life. And it illuminated every dark corner, and there was no place for me to hide. And its power was like laser beams, like the Death Star from Star Wars, and it saw every part of me, and nothing was lost. And as this whole thing is going on, I listen with this ear of my heart, with all this love. I listen. I hear that there's like this baseline of, I love you, I love you, I love you. I've always loved you. I've always known you. I've always seen inside you. There's not like a review. It's not like a review like, okay, let's look over this together. We haven't looked at the spreadsheet yet, so let's go down, let's go column. That's not like that at all. It's like the divine had been present with me through everything that had already happened to me. And it was more like I was being shown what the divine had seen. And
Mm-hmm.
and then I hear this love. I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Come to me, come to me, come to me, turn to me. And I just turn. I'm like, oh, that's what I want. And it's this overwhelming. It's like a 700-foot waterfall, or that's crashing down on me with love. I can't resist this thing. It is so powerful and attractive that I don't want my own pain anymore. I release my own pain by turning to this. And as I turn to this, I am expanded with this. It's still inside of me, and it's all around me, and it's speaking to me. It's this voice. I called it the voice for this longest time to myself. It's the voice. And it was outside of me and inside of me, and it was filled the divine space that I was in, this heavenly void, light, dark thing. And I'm expanded with welcome and beauty and healing and wholeness and knowledge and understanding and truth, paradise, bliss, awe, adoration, grace, hope, joy. I can't tell you all these different facets of it were all this one beauty. And this one beauty infilled me and expanded me to this point at which I was so large, I nearly was going to fold back in. I was so infilled that I was going to, the last vestige of my highest consciousness was going to be dissolved back into the full one awareness. And there was this like beautiful pain to it. This collapse happened then. As soon as I became aware of this self, I collapsed back. And I collapsed back, and now I have remembrance of my I didn't tell you these things. I should tell you these things. So in this state of being, mm-hmm. I see my original self. I see myself, and this is all metaphor. Everything I'm saying is metaphor. So imagine like an energy field of photons, and this photon field is infinitely deep and infinitely tall and infinitely below, except for, it's only infinite in one direction, because on my side of the wall, I am not in infinity. I am in this other space, this void space, but I am a photon of the same substance. I'm a singular photon, superpositioned, super connected, quantumly connected to the field of intelligence. And this field of intelligence is way far beyond my capacity as a single cell to be able to understand. But I know that I am it. And in the space of seeing myself in this part of this much larger light as being the light itself, my attention was turned, I want to say downward, but that's just a metaphor. And I could see this other self of me, this like next level down self of me. And this next level down self of me was the self that is incarnating into all these other lives simultaneously. And so this other self of me and I'm superpositioned with it as well, but less so. Like main hook up here, a little bit somehow less here. And this oversoul of me is eons long. It's what's being called into being by name beyond this part of me that is the divine itself. And so this photon is like I am a fleck of gold. And this elongated self of me is like pencils. I got a bunch of pencils. So it's like I'm this big I'm a big baguette. I'm a big Italian piece of loaf, and I'm this really long bread. And in it are these pencils, and these pencils are individual lives that I'm living simultaneously, because I'm in a place of timelessness. And none of these pencils are me. They're all projections of this lower self that is not my highest self, but it is still part of me. And they're all happening at the same time. And there are lots of them. It's like I have this, I see the length of my oversoul is eons and eons and eons. And so I get curious, and the divine is still with me. Like the voice is still present, okay? And I'm like, what's this? And it's telling me this is, you, and it's not using language. It's all like instant knowledge. Boom, 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 boom. And I want to see. a life. And so I'm scooped down into one of the lives. And in this life, I inhabit this body. So like I don't know how to describe this, because I'm already inhabiting this body, okay? As this lower higher self. But I'm now, from this higher point of view, inhabiting the soul that's inhabiting the body, sort of. I don't know, it's weird. And I'm inside this body, and I'm a man, and I got old clothes on. It's like thousands of years ago, and I'm walking on a street, and there are palm trees, and I'm walking with people that I know, and I can see the trees, and I can see my feet. I can't see myself, but because I didn't hold up my hand. I'm looking around like, whoa, this all kind of look familiar. There's a language being spoken, and I'm a human being, and I'm walking with some people I know. And then I'm out, and I'm in another body, and I'm in this other body. I don't know where I am or what I am. I am not a human being. I think, oh my, nothing looks like Earth here. Nothing looks familiar. And I was confused, but I was in a body, and I know that it was smaller than the human form, but I don't know what I was. And out I go. And then I get compressed again, and now I'm back down to, I'm no longer just this highest self. I'm back down to this soul level self, but I'm more condensed. I'm still like out of my recent incarnation. So here's this crazy thing. I am both dead and not dead in all of these other lives. I am Schrodinger's cat, because as my self-conscious self, the one that I know that I am, I'm dead. I'm in heaven. I know that. I ask, am I dead? The voice says, yes, you're dead. Okay, I'm dead. But I'm also living all these other lives, but I'm none of them. I am none of the pencils. I'm inhabiting these pencils. They're part of me, yeah, sure. They're part of my bread. They're stuck in there. Maybe I'd rather have avocados. I mean, not avocados, but apricots in my bread, or olives. But the none of them are me. But I am now condensed back down to that I can see to my recent life, and I see my parents. I feel them. I sense them. I sense my own recent death. And the voice is always saying to me, come to me, come to me, come to me, calling my name. The calling of my name is this continual sound, and I can't say my name. It's no language. It still resonates inside of me. I'm always being called. This is what you experience. This is what you're experiencing. When you drop into your state of thankfulness, you're experiencing this calling of yourself, like satisfaction unavailable anywhere else. And so I have this thing going on of calling and calling and calling me. And I am like my parents, their life is terrible. And I'm swept across the belly of God. I don't know how to say that. I get swept across heaven, and by like this big hand, but it's not a hand. Okay, this is just totally metaphor. I swept across heaven, and my energetic self, my higher consciousness, not this super photon self, but somehow less than that, my lower higher self. I am now can see into our universe, and inside of our universe, I see all of our galaxies. And I'm not like looking around, like, oh, look at that. I'm being shown, which means I'm being directed. I can only see what I'm being shown. And so I get swept across, no effort of mine. I'm seeing outside. I'm still inside the divine. Like 99% of me is still inside. There's this little tiny bit of me that's out. And I've gone through that Higgs boson field where energy becomes matter. And I'm not matter, but I can see the matter. And I can see the matter, and I'm shown all of the universe and all of the galaxies and the spaces between them, and they don't look big to me. And I can see into the very far distance where our universe is being created in the now. There's like this, but it's not just at the Big Bang, okay? It's like inside of everything always now. It's these two things at the same time. It's the original creation of the universe, but it's also this constant, like, always coming into being. And it's always out of this, and on the other side of this coming into being is this infinite darkness again that I cannot see within. And out of this infinite darkness is this outpouring of our universe, like a web of gold, a net of golden light, making everything exist. Every molecule, every atom, every planet, every person, everything. Nothing exists without this lattice, this web, this deep web of light inside. It's just pouring itself out of the darkness, creating this universe. And it's creating other universes. It's like not just ours. There's like this constant outflowing. Ours is constantly outflow, but there's these millions, just one after the other, after the other, after the other. This constant outpouring, and it's all love. And it's all speaking love, all of it, all these billions of other galaxies, universes, all our universe. It's all this just love, love, love. And love pervades everything there is. It's this web inside of all there is. All there is love, because I am love itself. And all of this love, as I experience all of the love, is being concentrated like a magnifying glass on me. It's like aim all this, not just our universe, but all these other universes and the infinite. It's beaming this light right to my being as I'm experiencing the light inside of all things. And it says to me, in the way that I have always loved you, I always will and do. Now, was, and will be. This amount of inconceivable love is the love I have for all that is, and you are part of all that is, and because you are part of all that is, you are part of me, and because you are part of me, I am self-love, and there is no separation. And this infinite love is this power beyond all matter. And as this fills inside of me, I see all of Earth. My direction is down to, down to our galaxy, down to our, spiral arm, Earth. Earth is a hologram. I see 7 billion people on it. And inside of every one of these 7 billion people, it's the same photonic golden fleck of light that I am. Mm. And I see this inside of every single person, not like looking from Tyrone to Mary. I'm just like looking, and everybody's got it. I see everybody. And it's night on half the planet. It's live time. There's night on half the planet and daylight on half the planet. People are sleeping, and they're making love, and they're having babies, and there's war going on, and there's terrible things going on. There's robberies, and everybody, every single person has this inside of them. And it's all buried under this fog that encases the whole planet, and that nobody can see what I can see. But what I see is that nothing made of love is ever lost. It's all at its core the being itself, and that the light pervades all there is. And because of this was, is, and will be, because of this love, all has been, will be, and is well because of this love. And I am now understanding myself. And then I see my parents. And you want me to keep going, David? I'm on this roll. I'm just like
keep
talking. Okay.
Don't stop. Don't stop.
I see my parents' faces. They're like pop up out of Earth. I should tell you this before this happens. I'm looking at Earth, and I see this golden light inside of everybody, and I'm curious, and I want to see it up close. And so I am swept down like this tube, and I'm down this maybe it's the angelic being, I don't know. I'm suddenly in the middle of the Atlantic, and there's this ship, and it's a battleship, and in this battleship is somebody standing on a deck, and I'm inside the ship, and I'm in front of this person, and I follow this person. I see this person. Oh my God. I saw this person in their cabin and followed him for a time. And in his center of his self is this golden light. And then I'm out. And wow. So I'm out, and I see my parents' faces. And I see them as the collective of the entirety of their lives in one image of their suffering. So I see, and my mom's suffering was so profound, it continues to today. And it just is astounding to us. And the pain and the fear in herself, and the pain and the fear and anger in my dad, God rest his soul, which he does, because he died a couple years ago, as well with my dad. I saw parallel lives. I saw my mom and my dad with me in their life, less pain. my mom and my dad without me in their life. Nuclear strike. But both paths ended in the same place. The path led to the divine light itself. And the divine spoke to me and said to me, in the way that you are well now and all is well, they too will be well. Just wait a moment in timelessness and they'll be here. But I could see their time. And I understood my own sense of what time was, which was temporary, and that it's not really me. And I said, do I have to stay here? And the voice said, you felt my welcome. You are welcome. But no, you don't have to stay. I said, deciding, knowing that I could help my parents, which has been this crazy freaking thing. Now that it's 40 years later, I said, if I get to come back here, then I choose my life. And the voice said, you won't live your life. You can come back here. Out you go. And off I went. And I was like, what is this? And I was getting compressed and back inside this angelic form. And I'm like traveling down this space in between. Only in this space in between, I'm inside this, and it's also the divine being. It's still with me. It's not like this angel is separate from God. It's the same thing. It's just kind of smaller, like a coupe instead of an ocean liner or something. And I'm inside of it, and I'm traveling with it under no control of my own. I'm being kicked out, and by choice, but I feel like I'm being kicked out. And I look back and I'm like longing, oh my God, what did I just do? And I see the infinite darkness, and from the infinite darkness there's this beam of white light, and it's contained. It's like a laser beam's the size of the moon, and it's a singular laser beam the size of the moon, and it's beaming past me. And so as I look at this thing and I can't see back into heaven, I kind of follow it up in front of me. Now there are a million doorways, and in the center of all these doorways is this beam of light, and this light kind of is super intense in the middle and then fades out to the very edges, and all of them have doors, except for the beam itself. It is a door, and the voice says to me, choose. And I'm like, I want some self. I want some creativity. I want some bohemianism. I want these things. But I want the light. It says to me, choose light. And so I choose some light. I do. I choose. I don't want the intensity of it. I remember not wanting that. I wanted, and I remember thinking to myself, how am I going to be, and I knew I was being sent as a messenger. How am I going to be a messenger if I'm not a human being? If I don't have as many or equal flaws to everybody else, no one's going to believe me. I've got to be broken. And that was it. In a doorway, and I'm traveling down this doorway, and this doorway is like a corridor that leads all the way back to my body, but it's next to all these other corridors. And in between all these corridors are doors, and there are doors all the way down my tunnel, and doors and doors and doors and doors and doors and doors. And I get to the end of this tunnel, and now I'm kind of like popped out, and I'm in front of my body. And I'm in front of my body, and I've come out of that Higgs boson energy into matter kind of place. And heaven is still there. I can freaking still see it. And my attention is like drawn down to the body, and I see me on the cliff. And now I'm kind of dangling off the side, and I'm up close. And I'm like really fast and up close. And I see it in isolation, which is weird for me as I'm thinking about this because of what happens next. And I don't understand this. So I'm up close, and it opens my chest. It opens my chest, and it pours me in. It sticks me, and it stuffs me, and it compresses me and twists me and painfully jabs me and kind of stuff. And I'm inside this thing now, and there's like this opening right above my heart, and it's like an eye, and I can still see this angel, and I can still see back to heaven. And then it closes, and then I'm in my brain comes online and I'm racked with pain. Like my brain's going, and I'm like, oh my God, what is it? I don't know who I am. I don't know where I am. I don't know what's going on. All I know is that moments before there was no suffering. That suffering wasn't like erased from me, and it wasn't like it was absent from me. It's like it never existed. I was healed beyond any sort of memory of suffering. All suffering was gone, and now all I am in this terrible prison and pain. And then I start to hear, start to listen, and he starts to shake me. Tim is like shaking me and yelling at me and don't die, don't die, don't die. And I open my eyes and there he is. He's up above me. And this is the part I just like, how come I didn't see Tim when I was zooming in? I don't know why. I don't know why I didn't see him. But all I could see was my own body. I'd never thought of that before. So this is the thing about NDE. In my experience anyway, I never thought about that before. How did I not freaking see him? I don't know. Did I see him? Then I asked myself. I don't know. And so, but here he is. He's screaming at me, don't die, don't die, don't die. And I open my eyes and he's like, you were dead, you were dead. And he stands me up and I don't know what I am or who I am anymore. I'm lost. I am a new person. And from this moment on, I have never been the same.
Peter, your words, your articulation of your experience was so clear. I was right there with you in every moment. I've never heard such a detailed experience before.
Well, I intended, so my life was so radically changed that I became a totally different person. And I was going to go to graduate school in architecture. My sister was in graduate school in architecture to join the family firm. Like, that's the deal. And I've been pushing a pencil. I still use pen. That's why I use pencil. I was pushing a pencil at my dad's desk when I was a kid, and working in construction all the way through college so that I could learn the bones of building from the inside out. Like, long-term plan. I came back. I'm like, what happened to me? And I was in a theater company, so I was a student at Montana State, and I was in the theater of silence, the theater of. I have to remember the sign. It's been so long. It was an American Sign Language theater, and We went on this 10-week tour, which allowed me all this time to meditate. I had learned to meditate in high school, and I had this anchor. That's really what I want to say, is that when I came back, I had a single anchor, because the world was an entirely different place. I wasn't just different. This was an entirely different place I was in. And I was lost and alone and bereft and angry, and the only place I found peace was in my meditation. And so, long story short, I didn't go to graduate school in architecture. I went to the Yale Divinity School, and I got a degree in MDiv. I got my Master's of Divinity. But the Dean of Students allowed me to do a 3-year independent study of mysticism, which I never told her why. And so she once for a semester found money to hire a professor for me, and allowed me to take classes all around the university. And I studied mysticism. And the reason why I studied mysticism is because I wanted to know if I was alone. I wanted to know if there are other people like me, and I had enough exposure through my English degree with Emerson and Thoreau to have touched into the Upanishads and the Vedas already. So I was already aware of the Eastern work materials, and took a class on that after I died. I took a class on that back at UMass. And then I intended to construct a way of thinking about what happened to me for my own well-being, because I couldn't tell anybody. I knew it would sound insane. And so all I had was me. And I needed to try to figure out if there were others like me, and how did they deal with it, and how did they find their way back again. I was like a jettisoned off a passing spaceship here and left alone. And I was like, there's got to be others. And so I chose language because the morning after I died. Okay, the day we got down, we self-rescued. Like, the rope came free, and we descended, and we self-treated for hypothermia, and then on the ride back, we spent time in jail. We paid cash for a fine to get out, and then I totaled my friend's car against a semi and left me with a stutter. And he was super angry at me when this all happened. And so we pooled the little money we had left in Canada, and he
Wait,
took a bus.
all of this in the same day?
It's like with all this is 48 hours. This is like from the morning, from the day that we began our ascent to the morning where I'm by myself hitchhiking because I gave Tim all the rest of the money that I had so he could take a bus, is 48 hours. And it was like, and now I've got to, now, I drove the car underneath the rear end of a semi, and we hit the side. We didn't hit it head on. We almost hit it head on. We missed by like a hair's breadth on two wheels, and like slammed into the rear wheels. And, and I wasn't even
And
at
then
the
you were arrested?
Oh, that was before. That was before. That was
Wait,
before we crashed it.
wait.
We got arrested because
How,
we got pulled over for speeding through this little town, and when the cop the Mounties like, oh, you're Americans? No, you have to pay your fine now. We're like, we're not going to pay your fine now. We're not going to pay the fine now. We're going to go across the no Americans. We know them. They skip out on us. So either you pay the fine now or we lock you up. We're like, you're not going to lock us up. He's like, oh, yes, I am. And he did. And
oh my
we
God.
paid cash. I felt like I was paying a bribe through the bars of the jail. It's like, here's the cash, because we actually had some money, and because we had, like I said, we lied to this guy. So he's like, show me your wallets. We open our wallets. There's like nothing in our wallets because we'd taken our money and put it in our boots, because we've been putting our money in our boots for the entire trip. So that's how you don't lose your money. You put your wad of money in your boot, and that's where it was. And so we pulled out our wad of money. We paid this fine, and they drove us back, and they let us go. And then I wasn't even driving the car when I totaled it. It's in my book, and it's a long story. So,
Oh my God. I cannot believe you went through all of that after you just went through all of that.
and then I hitchhiked back to Montana by myself, and I had adventures along the way. People rescued me, and thank
Oh
God.
my God.
On the morning that I came back, I knew that I was a messenger, because I knew I was a messenger when I was being transported back in the first place. And so then the problem became mine. How do I talk about the thing that I can't speak about? How do I describe the indescribable? And so I set about a mission to do just that. I think I made that choice on the other side. I wanted to be a writer, and writing is very hard for a dyslexic person. And I wanted to be able to communicate this one story. I felt like I was given this one thing in my life, and that it was on loan to me, and that I had to give it away, because the year before I died, I was hiking on the Appalachian Trail, and I had this out-of-body experience brought into the divine presence, this void, in which I was told, I was shown, I was given a gift, and I had to give it away. And so I felt like, and I never understood that story until after I died. I'm like, oh yeah, that's what that means. And so my whole quest of my life has been to try to create language to speak about the unspeakable, but more importantly, to try to convey the thing that I felt when you were being thankful. Thank you, thank you, thank you, you were chanting. To be able to see that, to be able to feel that energy is the best communicator that there is. And so second best for me was language, until I could figure out a way to be able to convey the truth without words. And that's really what I'm after. Because I can tell a story, but that's not the truth of what I want to tell. The truth has to tell itself. I can't convey it alone.
You really did describe the indescribable probably the best that you possibly could. It was just
So
clear.
so far.
So far.
Because
Yeah.
it's an ongoing process. I'm like always trying to.
We come into this world with spiritual amnesia, where we forget who we really are for a reason, to experience what it's like to be human, to experience contrast. Why do some people remember their experiences if we're supposed to forget and not remember?
I don't think that we're supposed to forget and not remember. I think that's a consequence of this limited reality. I don't think it's like a oh yeah, we're going to send you down there to forget. I don't think that's the way it works. I think it's you go back down here and you forget. It's not you must forget. It's that you do forget, and that it's a like I when my first dog that really loved me as a kid, when my dog loved me as a kid, my dog loved me with this purity of that my dog loved me so much that it would fight a porcupine to protect me. It forgot itself, and it did this naturally. And I think that natural forgetting of self is just the way it is. And so I heard this said once. It's a rabbinic saying. It's a question. What's the one thing the unlimited can't have?
Limitation, yeah.
And so we are the unlimited as limitation. And as limitation, we're not the fullness of being. And as the fullness of being, we can't remember ourselves. And yet inside all of us, this oneness exists. You experienced it for yourself. And that's really the only way that it can ever be understood. And that's why language is secondary to it. It can only be experienced, and that's subjectively. Maybe I can show it to you. Maybe I can channel the light. But you have to find it inside yourself, not you personally. I mean, everybody. And so I don't have any blame for the divine for sending me here, because the divine is here with me, experiencing this with me. And some people forget their NDEs. I know that they do. There's some percentage. It's a small percentage of us that remember, really, of the resuscitated people, from what I read in the science. I maybe have a DNA capacity in my cellular structure that allows me to remember. But this is a crazy question. How do I remember something where my brain wasn't there? I didn't have a brain. My brain wasn't present. Then this. So what's the interface there? Is there some nano thing happening in the quantum scale that nobody knows yet? And or what's the deal? How does that work? I don't know. But I don't know about those who have black experiences. I know people that do. I've met people. I died. It was just blackness. Like, I'm sorry for you. But maybe better for you, because this whole thing comes with a downside. And the downside is this isolation outside society. We talked about this a little bit. It's hard to talk about. People don't want to talk about it because people think you're a kook.
How long did you say before you were able to come out of the closet with your story?
Oh, 20
How many years?
It was 2 decades. I kept it to myself. I told my wife on the day after our marriage, which was kind of, well, I didn't know. How do you tell somebody like this? She'd seen weird stuff already, so it wasn't. She was shocked, and it was difficult. And then I told this buddy of mine, who there's a picture over my head up there. He took that picture. His now wife is in that picture, and that was the 2 years after I died, mountain climbing, and we're climbing there. And he knew, but I couldn't explain it to him because I didn't have any language at the time. And then I told one other person because something else had happened, another mystical experience happened that he witnessed, and I told him because I had to, because I didn't want to end up at Yale New Haven mental health floor, and which is what was going to happen. And otherwise, I kept it a secret because who's going to believe me?
So, what made you finally?
Tell?
Okay, several questions.
Okay.
One question is, you're not the same person when you come back.
Mm-mm.
You're a different person. How can you be? So, one, you're a different person, and you're not able to express why you're a different person. You're not able to express that. Holding that in, I can't even imagine what that did to your psyche.
Twisted me. I liken it to my friends and my family who've come out as gay, and they came out as gay after when they were young. In my family, they came out youngish, But the twisting of the silence, it's not the truth of it, the reality of it. It's the silence of it that twists a person. It's the secrecy. It's the living double-faced. It's the having to be masked all the time. It's the pretending in social scenes that I give a hoot about what they're talking about, and I don't. Not a thing. And I thank you for saying that, because I don't. I was alone and depressed for 20 years. I was suicidal. I was suicidal every day. I prayed every day to take me home. Take me home today. Right through my marriage, right through my kids. Every day I want to go home. And I came out because, I became a minister. So after divinity school, I didn't intend to be a minister because I'm not a believer. One of my side effects is I am not a believer. But I understand the oneness, that Jesus was a oneness teacher. And so I hid inside the church and I pretended that I was a believer when I wasn't. And I did all sorts of my eccentricities in the community and the church were the stuff of regular conversation, the things that I did, because I'm not contained, I'm not constrained. I belong to the divine, and that's it. And so I hid inside the church, and then there was this huge embezzlement. And my calling, by my spiritual calling, I don't know if I can say this on your show or not, but I'm doing my best not to swear. The
You can say whatever.
I was a spiritual ass kicker. That was my job. It's like I had two churches in a row where I was the spiritual ass kicker, and the first one was kind of helped me get to the second one. It was terrible, but I succeeded. And the second one was this 2-decade-old embezzlement. So the church money was missing when the previous people picked up the church and moved it back 30 feet. There was fiscal malfeasance. That's all we knew. And those people then shifted into positions of power in the congregation. And there was another embezzler in the congregation. And that embezzler in the congregation was the treasurer and the secretary, who I've made up with. And we are now good. And I've been good about it the whole time. I've been trying to convince her that I'm okay. And so finally we are. And thank God. And anyway, these people, the closer we got to the truth, the more dangerous they became, and they were a CIA spy, like an operative behind the Iron Curtain kind of person, vice president of a major oil company, a commodities broker, and an attorney who's actually in prison now for embezzlement. And maybe he's out by now, but I doubt it. So the closer we got to the truth, the more they tried to destroy me personally and publicly in my town, and it was bad. And it eventually became state news when we proved the embezzlement. And because I suddenly had nothing to lose anymore. And after we proved the embezzlement, and those people left the church, and those people had infected all the nonprofits in town. I live in a resort town. There's a resort town this is like a sailing hub of the coast of Maine. We have the best harbor on the coast of Maine, and that's what we like to brag anyway. But it's a coastal town, and it's a swanky town. A lot of poverty here too. Don't half the kids in school are on aid. It's a struggle. Okay, so it's not just this one thing. But these rich people were in charge of all the nonprofits in town and spread their poison everywhere. So the whole town had this pollution to it, like a substrata of nastiness. And when we proved this embezzlement, and they literally tried to destroy me. I mean, they tried to get me fired, and ruined as a person in town, ruin my reputation, and just destroy me. And in the end, we found the embezzler, and they had turned the whole church against me too. Not the whole church, but most of it. And but it all worked out in the end. And then one Sunday morning, the deacons had this meeting. And this is a year after this all happened, And the deacons were not, by law, I don't know if you know this about nonprofits, 501c3 nonprofits have bylaws, and the bylaws are basically law that's backed up by state law. If the bylaws say this one thing and you don't do this one thing, you're in violation of state law, which makes you a criminal act. And the deacons all meet together on this Sunday morning, and I became an expert in all this stuff because I had to. My life was on my life was on the line, and so I walk into the sanctuary one Sunday morning, and they're all there, and I'm like, oh fuck, what is going? I thought this was over. I'm like thing in my head. I thought this was all over, and now they're meeting by themselves, and by law, I'm supposed to be there. The pastor is supposed to be present. Deacons cannot meet. And I'm like, oh, because there were secret meetings and all this kind of stuff going on in the church, bad stuff. And I'm up in the pulpit and I'm getting ready for Sunday morning, and it's a picture. It's a New England church. It's like straight white walls and big, huge white clear windows. And it's a beautiful sanctuary. And I'm up in the pulpit, and this emissary comes up to me, and it's my neighbor who was on my search committee, who I love, who is one of my allies through this entire thing from day one. And she says to me, hi, Peter, we just met. And I said, yeah, I know you met. I could see that. And that's a violation. And she said, no. It's okay. We met because we wanted to figure out how to apologize to you for everything that we had done to you. And this was statewide news, like in the paper for days, in the big paper, because it was so terrible. And I was like, oh my God, they see me. And so I decided to let them see me. They trust me. They know what I did and what it cost me to do it for them. And so that Sunday, instead of preaching my sermon, I decided to tell them the truth. And I told them my story. And I told them my story because I'd been lying to them. And I lied to them about my belief. I am not a believer. I know where I'm from. Because she said to me, you must have had a lot of faith to put up with all we put you through. And I'm like, I don't have any faith. I don't have faith at all. I have zero faith. I have no faith. I am not a faithful person. And so I told them. And it spread around town. And within a week, six people came up to me. One of the nurses I worked with, one of the, what was this other woman doing at the time? I can't remember which her job was at the time. And the woman who owns the fish fry. And everybody started coming out to me. And then I was free. And then I was unmasked. And that's been a positive and a negative because, as a masked person, it was easier to float through society. But as an unmasked person, there are relationships in my life that have been severed, not by my doing, or made more difficult. And unless you experience this, you can believe in it, which is wonderful. Lots of people believe in it, and that's an entryway into it. But if you don't believe in it and you've never experienced it, I'm just a kook. I'm a crazy person. And the only evidence I have to show for it, because I had no medical attention to it, it's like no hospital record. The only evidence I have for it is my entire freaking life. The way I have lived my life and the things that I have done. And the reason I still live in my town, I still live here. So after this thing happened to the church, excuse me, sorry about that. After this thing at the church, I got a job in TV. I got recruited to television. I had this TV show for 15 years, and it was in the city, an hour and a half away. But I wanted to stay where I live. I wanted to stay where I live because these people know my story, and in and among them, they either, and of course you can't live in a town and not make somebody not like you, because that's the way it is in the small town. But everybody knows me, and I don't have to hide here. I don't have to pretend that I'm anybody other than I am. And I know that I could probably get away with that most anywhere in my state, but it feels comfortable here to me. safe.
Do you feel, now that you've shared your story, do you feel like now you have a sense of responsibility to continue sharing it?
I have no real choice in the matter, so it feels to me. It's not the story, it's the presence itself that I'm trying to communicate. The story is, it's this vehicle that's been given to me. I've gotten this vehicle, and I'm trying to use this vehicle to to channel light in the world. That's it. And get out of the way and not be a filter on it. Let it speak for itself, and do my best to enliven it in others. Because I don't think that humanity is ever going to solve any of its problems the way we've ever done for the last 300,000 years. And look at the world right now. Precarious. And there's this phenomenon that's going on. And I feel like I have a responsibility to this phenomenon. And I felt a compulsion to tell the story, but the phenomenon is that science has been raising the dead all around the world for 60 years, since cardiac care came online in surgeries and spread to emergency rooms and paramedics and corporations with paddles, the shopping mall with the paddles. And there are tens of millions of us now. And the part of what I feel responsible for is being a spokesperson. I'm out of the closet. I'm early out of the gate. I have this communication skill that I've honed as a public speaker, with an intent to be able to communicate. I want to free everybody else's voices. I feel like I have a responsibility. The more near-death experiencers speak publicly about their experience, the more normalized this will become, so that experiences like yours with ayahuasca, because psychedelics definitely have a power to the end duality, depending on the setting and your mental capacity, where you are in your art. But they've been shown to do so at Johns Hopkins University in a major study, not just our experience. But the more we can all talk about this, the bigger the chance we have to nudge humanity in a new direction. I don't have this fantasy that, given the powers and principalities of weaponry and greed that power this planet, that my little tiny voice is going to be strong enough to influence. But all of us together, we have a chance. We have a chance to nudge the whole ship. You only have to change. People have this divine experience where they get a visitation from the dead. Somebody they love comes back and visits them, and now their life is changed forever. And it's just this 3-degree change. And that 3-degree change, you end up in a whole other continent if you're in the middle of the ocean. It doesn't take a whole heck of a lot to steer the whole thing differently. And I do feel a responsibility to try to encourage all mystical experiencers and near-death experiencers to not embellish, just to tell the truth about what happened to you, to somebody you love and somebody you trust, and let them tell you back what happened to them. And what you're going to discover is that half the population has had some kind of anomalous experience that's totally subjective, that society says they can't speak about. And then instead of just these tens of millions of near-death experiences, we're half the freaking population. And then we have a chance. I don't want to be Mr. Doom and Gloom, but today, as we're talking, Belarus has tactical nuclear weapons for the very first time. The United States has, along with NATO, is armed on the German border with the most number of jets that have ever been anywhere on Earth ever. And China's like, you got to give in on Taiwan. We're not going to back down. We're on the cusp of this thing. And we need to bring as much light into the world as we possibly can to avert this now, and to try to steer it toward the potential for a new way of being human in relationship to each other. We are one planet. This whole idea, I'm sorry, I'm ranting now. This whole idea that we are different, that I'm a different race than you. I'm from a different country. I identify as my DNA that I get from Ancestry.com. But as I look at my Ancestry.com, I was Persian. I was mostly Persian for a period of time. Now I'm mostly Macedonian and Greek with a whole smattering of the other European things. But none of them, what they really show is the movement of my people through the world's DNA. They're not my cultural context. My cultural context is my birth life. But my DNA context, I share 99% of my DNA with you, David. 99%. The 1% that makes us different is this minuscule thing. If I had a cup of coffee and I had a dropper filled with milk, and I dropped one drop into the milk of milk into the coffee, you'd never see the milk. And we are now one planet, and we have this tendency to want for ourselves. And that is a chance we have to take now. The chance we have to take is to want for the other. And that's the divine.
Oh, Peter, thank you so much. Is there anything that you want to share before we part ways? You want to plug a book or anything that you're currently doing or working on?
Sure, I'll plug my book. It's an Audible international bestseller, and it has a movie option, and I've been working very diligently for the last 3 years. This is essentially Act 2 of a 3-act screenplay, and I've been working with the producers to construct Act 1 and Act 3. So that's going on, working very hard at that. I have a YouTube channel.
How exciting.
Yeah, it's wicked exciting. It's a lot of work, and as a writer, I have an improved style as a result of this. It's been a grueling, wonderful experience of learning, of becoming a better writer. It's been great. These guys they're tough, but they're fabulous, and I love them, and they love me. So it's been great. YouTube channel. I do this thing called Not Church, and I right now. Last week we did the Gospel of Matthew, the Beatitudes of the Gospel of Matthew. I should do this in a better voice. We did the Beatitudes of the Gospel of Matthew from the Aramaic point of view, using a translation from this ancient text called the Peshitta, which is an Aramaic version of the Gospel that the West really doesn't know about. I'm basically a scholar, or at least a public scholar. And so Not Church compares the truth of what Jesus was trying to say with the truth that Lao Tzu was saying with Rumi and the Upanishads. It's this cross-cultural thing. And you can talk to me. I talk to people who have had mystical experiences of all different kinds, because I've had lots of them. And I help people reflect and understand what happened to them to help to empower them on their journey and teach meditation. peterpanagore.love.
Thank you so much for sharing your story. My heart is wide open. It really did touch me, and I'm just so grateful that you were able to share almost 2 hours of your time with me. Thank you so much, Peter.
Thank you, David, for having me and spending 2 hours of your time with me.
Enjoy your week, and we'll talk soon.
All right.
All right.
You too. Peace and love.